everyone. Welcome back to the L.A.M.E Book Club podcast. My name is Melissa.
I'm Ellie.
And we're back with another Tandem Fandom, week 3.
Woohoo!
It's Empire of Storms, chapters 20 through 29, and Tower of Dawn, chapters 18 through 24. So buckle up, buttercups. We're going to get a lot of Aelin today, and it'll be a good time. But before we do that, if you haven't already listened to our Hot Goss episode that was released on Monday, go do that. It's actually very fun. Ellie, it was all Ellie's idea. I'm not going to take any credit. We structured it like a court case because we're talking about Powerless. And I personally loved it. And Ellie was not as crazy about it. So we set this up as like a courtroom, and like I gave my argument for why I liked it and why I thought it was good, and she gave her argument for the opposite. And then you guys get to play judge and jury and tell us if we were able to convince you one way or the other, and or who you felt like had a stronger argument. So go listen to that. If you haven't read the series, it's fine. We only talk about Powerless. We're gonna do this for each book, so there'll be 2 more. But we also actually had a collab on the beginning of that episode with the Bookish Songs Collective. It's a group of creative artists who come together and create music based on how they felt or that was inspired by books that they had read. So it was really cool. We got to talk to them, hear a little bit about like how they started and all of that. And one of the songs that was inspired by Powerless is actually the opener for that episode, so you get a little taste of some of the music that
glory.
Exactly. So it's very fun. Go listen to that if you haven't already. Our next episode next week is going to be Empire of Storms chapters 30 through 36 and Tower of Dawn chapters 25 through 35.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did we already say like and subscribe? Because if not, please do. And we have
not.
a review of the week.
There we go.
This comes from Kay Gallant. She says, "Not so lame." I know this is a she because I think we've talked with her once or twice on Instagram.
Wait.
Really sweet.
I am actually pretty sure. Did we not read this one last time?
No, I don't think we did.
Oh,
this
I thought
one
we
came
did.
in like... No, I don't think we did. So
okay,
she says, such a unique, if we did, you get it twice, baby. Such a unique book club podcast. I feel like an idiot. Loved all the Hot Goss shorts and clips on YouTube, never realizing they had an actual book club podcast. I think common mistake. I actually don't think that. I don't know.
Here's the thing. I personally don't watch stuff on YouTube. So I know a lot of people do though. So I guess I could understand. It doesn't make sense to me.
It was just a YouTube show, yeah.
Well, it doesn't make sense to me, but that's because I don't watch things on YouTube, so I don't even know what that would look like.
Yeah. So then she says, so I've been missing out. It's really refreshing to hear from readers who aren't afraid to break things down and give honest takes, to risk ruffling some feathers while still being respectful of the authors we love. Intelligent, witty, entertaining, great podcast. Oh, thank you.
Thank you. You know what? You're right. I don't think we did. I think I just remember reading it. That's why I'm like, no, I've heard this before.
Yeah.
That was such a sweet review. Thank you very much. Glad you found us on platforms other than YouTube. Welcome. And to anyone else who has done the same. I mean, also, we love YouTube though, so watch there if you do. That's fine. No, you're not yucking my yams. So
that's not the saying.
It is.
It's yucking my yums. Like the things you say yum
so
to.
Right. I'm so sorry. That didn't yuck my yams.
Here's the new virtual sticker of the week. Yucking my yams.
Here we go. We have Nary steaming my beans and yucking my yams. Wow, we have a lot of like food ones.
I know.
I'm just hungry all the time.
I'm not supposed to do this, but I will because I'm a little rebel.
Oh,
we're not supposed to say the things that we think we're going to do in the future. Melissa said to stop because then we have to follow through. But I'm pretty sure we're going to come out with stickers pretty soon. Like real, not virtual, real stickers
Real
for
stickers,
y'all.
yeah.
So you'll be the first to know. The Wednesday group. No, maybe. Who knows?
Just listen to all of our stuff and then you'll be the first to know.
Yeah.
No, I did tell Ellie to stop that, but not because I didn't want us, like, you guys to know things. It's because when we first started doing this podcast, we were making all of these really grand announcements that we never followed through with. And I was like, we need to stop doing that. So let's only announce it once we have like everything in the works. And full disclosure, we don't have everything in the works yet for the stickers, but we have talked about it and we are committed to doing it. So
it's happening. We're doing it.
According to Ellie, they're going to be sold next week. In reality, we haven't started, but we are going to. So stay on the lookout for those.
I just can't wait. I can't wait. I'm going to cover this entire water bottle, rip off all these other stickers.
Yucking your yums.
Yucking your yams.
Yams
Nary.
and yums.
Steaming my beans. It's going to be
There
great.
it is.
Okay.
I love it.
That's all
but
I've
yes,
got.
that's all we have
Oh,
too.
no, that is not all I have. You like to shop? I like to shop. Do you like to shop for book things? Check out the Bean Workshop. For 10% off, you can use our code L.A.M.E Book Club Pod in all caps, or you can go to the link in our Instagram bio, and right through there, it'll already have your discount applied, and go shop for Bookie merch. They have some really cute stuff. I love it.
They sure do. All right. Well, with that, let's jump on in. Ellie, are you ready?
Yes.
All right. Empire of Storms, chapter 20. We meet up with our good pals Rowan and Dorian, who have just arrived in Skulls Bay. Rowan is exhausted since he barely slept and was often flying to survey for danger.
Okay,
and
it wouldn't be us if I didn't interrupt immediately with the Disney reference. This reminded me of, in The Incredibles when Helen and the kids crash the plane and then she forms herself as a boat and like Dash is like kicking. That's what this reminded me of, like how they crawl up on the beach just tired. That's what I thought of with this.
Rowan was both Mrs. Incredible and Dash, and Dorian was Violet.
Yeah, just kind of sitting in there.
Just sitting in the boat.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to apologize for my quick reaction. It was a little obnoxious and loud. If that blew your speakers, I am terribly sorry.
We get excited about Dashel Robert Parr.
Dashel Robert Parr. Especially when unexpected but perfectly timed Disney reference. You just get me, Ellie. So I got really excited. Rowan knows that he and Dorian must remain diplomatic to convince Captain Rolf in order to join their side. He and Dorian find an inn, but before they can rest, they both sense an unfamiliar magic, but they also recognize that it's not Volg. They go to the Sea Dragon, which is Rolf's tavern. Jeez, I'm already starting. You guys. Where a tattooed bartender tells them that Rolf has been waiting for them. So they go to the back of the tavern to find Captain Rolf. Rolf had already known that Rowan and Dorian arrived thanks to his magic tattoos that showed enemies and ships. Rolf tells them that he lost many of his men fighting the Erewhon's forces, which sought to take over the... Okay.
Archipelago.
I know that this is wrong, but I'm just stating this so that everyone can laugh at me on the internet. I said archipelago the entire time reading this. And I think that's something else, though.
It reminds me of Archimedes from Sword in the Stone. Archimedes.
I think archipelago... It's maybe like a term in music?
Arpeggio is a term in music.
Arpeggio is music. I don't know. I knew it was wrong, but I just said archipelago, and I might say it again, and that's the only reason I bring this up. Erewhon even turned some of Rolf's men into Volg using his dark rings. Rolf also reveals that Erewhon has sea wyverns. I remember when reading that, I did roll my eyes a little bit, because I'm like, really? Like, the guy already has regular flying wyverns. Now he has sea wyverns.
He's just kind of like winning on all sides. It really was. Melissa says this a lot. She likes when books back you into the corner where you're like, there's no way they're going to win. There's nothing that they can do. There's no way we get out of this. That's how I felt throughout a lot of this book of like, Erewhon has so much. And yeah, they took out a little chunk of Morath, but what's that to him? He has this massive army, the witches, the wyverns, everything. And now sea wyverns.
Well, Ellie is right. I do say that a lot, but I'm going to caveat that because I like that. But in specific scenarios, I really enjoy it when it comes to like a relationship. Like we have no idea how the relationship's going to come out of this and stuff. I didn't love it in this sense, because it felt like the only way they're going to get out of it is so unrealistic. I'm like, something like there's literally no possible way for them to defeat this guy at this point with all of his resources. And so without, like, it just felt like the only way out of it was going to be some kind of like trashy, cheap writing of like then Aelin was able to be all powerful and then she got ice magic too.
That's
You know what I mean?
true.
Like that's kind of the direction I assumed it was going in.
That's a good
Granted,
point. Yeah.
we don't know yet, but because it had more to do with like being cornered in a plot versus cornered in like a relationship, that is why I wasn't thrilled about it in this aspect. However, we have no idea at this point. If you're just now reading, we don't know how this is going to end. So I'm not saying I didn't like the book, but I rolled my eyes a little bit reading it because I'm like, really? Like,
that's a really good point, and I'd like to reiterate what you said. I've never thought about that, but I do find when writers write their characters into such tight corners that you're like, they can't get out of it, it does tend to result in some kind of cheap writing because there has to be some supernatural way that they're able to like default. Oh, I got out of it because turns out I have powers. Didn't know. And it's like, well, if you had that the whole time, then what an opportune moment for it to come out, I guess. But
exactly.
Good point.
And not to say that that can't happen in like a relationship setting, but I think the reason why I like it more there is because generally like that has more to do with feeling and like how you interpret things versus like legit situations. Like you can't interpret the fight scene between a human and a sea wyvern to be like different than what it is. The wyvern has the advantage. Like there's no way to write around that other than a cheap excuse. But like when it comes to a relationship, there's a lot of different like nuances and innuendos that can be written in to make it a lot more logical with how it ends up, even if you weren't expecting it. So I think that's why I really like it in that aspect.
Sure.
But I don't always love it. I really love it if they pull something out that's not cheap that I just truly wasn't expecting in like these kind of situations. Oh my gosh, best ever. I just find that most of the time that doesn't end up being the case because they, like you said, they write it so well, but they write it too well. And so then the only way that you can get out of it then is by something that wouldn't otherwise make sense.
Right.
Anyways, so yeah, he had sea wyverns and I rolled my eyes. Rolf cannot use his magic tattoos to sense the comings and goings of Vogue. Again, to me, I'm like, this guy is unstoppable. Which makes the attack risky as he doesn't know what they're going up against. Rolf also tells Dorian that Duke Parrington, who is now known as Rowan, has deemed Dorian a traitor publicly, claiming to have liberated Rifthold from Dorian's clutches. Using the guise of Parrington, Rowan has named his little brother Aelin as his heir, because apparently, since he named... I remember reading this and being like, how is that possible that the power of succession would skip from Dorian to Duke, or Parrington, when Holland is alive? Because it's
Good
not
point.
Like if Dorian was his only heir, it would make sense that then his second in command would then take over. Yeah. But I remember being like, why the heck is I get it, Holland's young, but like for Parrington to then be the next one in line and then to just like name someone like his other son his heir, that felt weird to me. I understand from like the story's perspective like why she did it. I just remember being kind of like, that doesn't make any logical sense from like an order scenario. But anyways, Rifthold is now controlled by the witches, who are then under Rowan / Duke Parrington. So Dorian can no longer offer money or privateer status to Rolf in exchange for his alliance, which complicated the matters quite a bit. And I remember being like, oh my gosh, what are they going to do now? There's no way they're going to get Rolf on board. Before the discussion can continue, two Fey males who recognize Rowan enter the room, and Rowan throws a dagger near them. And my interest was piqued again.
Piqued interest, yes.
Two Fey males, say less. Fenrys and Gabriel, who are two other members of Rowan's cadre, and also blood sworn to Maeve, are the Fey males in question in Rolf's office. They sit down for lunch with Dorian and Rowan and eventually tell Rowan that Maeve is sailing her armada to EOA, though they are unsure why. Since Rowan left and Lorcan went rogue, Maeve now withholds information from the remaining cadre. Maeve mistrusts Fenrys in particular and has kept his twin Connell with her in Wenlin. This was so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And in exchange for Connell's fair treatment, Fenrys serves as an unwilling sexual partner. I remember being like,
yeah.
ugh.
Yeah, it was icky.
That's icky. Big ick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I definitely didn't like Maeve, but on top of that, I was like, really don't like her now. Fenrys asks Rowan about Aelin and her plans to bring Rolf to their side, but Rowan doesn't reveal much of what they had planned. When they arrive to the inn to rest, Gabriel and Fenrys reveal that Maeve had actually sent them to find and kill Lorcan. I do remember being a little bit surprised by that because, I mean, granted, I know Lorcan kind of came on his own accord to, like, do everything he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But we know as the reader that the only reason he did that is because he's trying to do what he thinks is best for Maeve. Like, ultimately, it's in his mind for her best interest. And he is, like, the leader of the cadre. So I remember being a little, like, perplexed.
Yeah.
That was, and excited, because I'm like, ooh, this adds an element of intrigue again for me, like, reading this story. Did you feel the same way, or no? Did you, like, kind of not really care too much about it?
No, I did. I agree with you. I felt the exact same. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Rowan is shocked that Maeve would kill Lorcan. Rowan feels the same way, I guess. Gabriel and Fenrys ask Rowan if he knows anything about Lorcan's whereabouts. Rowan bargains with them, asking him to join Aelin's cause and fight against Erewhon, reasoning that they can skirt around Maeve's orders on technicalities. He says that because Lorcan will inevitably return to Aelin, Gabriel and Fenrys could kill Lorcan after they help Aelin defeat Erewhon. And Rowan also then tells Gabriel that he has a son on Aelin's side who is her cousin, Adrian.
Was this the first we found out about? No, this is not.
No, we knew about it.
Rowan had talked to Aelin about it before, based on the smell.
I'm trying to remember how I felt.
I hated this plot line. I was like, of course. Also, you know something that's really difficult for me to get my mind around? I almost like that I just cannot grasp this. Is that in my head, Gabriel just shot up to like 65 years old. But he has the looks of like a 30-something, 20-something fae, because that's like when they settle or whatever. So he's supposed to look like this young, hot man, but also Adian's about looks the same age. That kind of stuff just sends me.
Yeah.
They look the same, but he's like, I am your father. What?
Also, you said Gabriel shot up to like 65 years old. Did you mean Adrian? Because Adrian's...
No, Gabriel. Because when Gabriel says like, oh, I'm your, like, I have a son, then I'm like, he's a father.
In your mind, like, he's
he immediately scruffy aged father.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm.
See, I don't know why I don't have a hard time with that. I can picture them looking like brothers, but just knowing that one's the dad and it didn't. I don't know
Maeve,
why.
I just pictured her like this older woman until I saw fan art, and then she's this young, beautiful, purple-eyed lady, and I'm like, of course. Well, that makes sense. Of course.
I pictured her like Mother Gothel, and I think that not only because of how she's described, but I think that also makes sense because her whole thing is youth, and like she keeps
who I
keeping herself
as?
young.
Also in the Disney train, Ursula, when she looks young, like when she takes that human form, you know?
Oh my gosh, Vanessa or whatever, isn't that what her name is?
Vanessa.
I think her name's Vanessa. I think she calls herself Vanessa when she's the person. That's funny. I did not. That missed me completely.
But kind of true, I feel like.
I'm not even a little bit true, but I'm glad for you.
Almost squeak-toyed you. If you haven't watched our last Hot Goss episode, we don't have a gavel, so we used a puppy squeaky toy every time we were like, you're out of order.
You're out of line. We should have... Oh, whatever. We'll keep going. So, switching gears here a little bit, Tower of Dawn, chapter 18. Hussar asks Irene to meet with her and asks if Irene would try and find out where Aelin is, since she's not in Terrasen. She wants to, like, get her to talk to Kale, trying to pull as much information as she can. Kale goes with Irene to see a man that she is healing, and then she gives him a tour of the city of Antica. Hussar makes Nesryn move at dinner so that Irene can sit next to Kale and pull later when they're at dinner. pull as much information as she can. I remember reading this and feeling uncomfortable. The tension and uncomfortableness was palpable.
Yes. Yeah.
Like, and that great writing.
Especially
I felt it.
Like Chaol and kind of Irene, I mean, Irene not so much, but Chaol's like a new person, so it's just like having to immediately get plopped into the politics of that.
Oh my gosh, I know.
Weird.
And Nesryn. Nesryn has
Nesryn too, yeah.
Like hardly any part in this so far in the book. Like she's mentioned, but like not much.
Yeah.
So it's even more so like no one knows her and they're asking her to move. Like
it truly is a large king and queen dinner at Shrek's like parent-in-law's house situation.
And like, she is donkey.
Yeah. Yikes.
Oh man. Irene tells Chaol that Aelin is not in Terrasen and that they don't know where she is. Irene and Chaol pretend to flirt so that the others don't know what they're discussing. And I like here too that Irene is like only plays the part for 2 seconds. She's like, all right, I just got to give it to you straight. They're asking me for information. I need you to tell me something so that I can go back.
Yeah. That would be me. I'm gonna shoot straight with you. Help me.
I'm not good at this. I'm not a spy. I just need to, gonna be honest. And I like that, so that they're like playing the part, whatever. Chaol tells her Skull's Bay, thinking that's the last place that Aelin would actually go.
This was insane. I can't believe Sarah wrote this. I cannot believe this.
I loved this so much because it filled 2 niches for me. One, it helped Irene. It made her look like she knew what she was doing. And it made Chaol even more Chaol. The guy was trying to help and still blundered.
He messed it up.
He still messed it up. But this made me laugh because, like, we know, doing this tandem read, we know where she's heading, so we know that that's where she was planning on going.
Right.
And we also know that my guy is just trying to do his best, and so I loved, like, it didn't make me more mad at him. It just was so true to this stupid character that she had written. It was one of those things,
you look at it, you're like, classic, and then you move on.
But, like, it was not an eye roll classic. It was a, this is the best classic, kind of, for me at least.
No, it's pretty eye rolly for me.
Whew, I liked it. Nesryn tells Chaol that she plans to go with Sartaq as he wants to return the Rukanin in the mountains and try and find out if the Vogue did end up making it to this continent a long time ago. Now we're moving back to Empire of Storms. Aelin and Adian slip onto a ship leaving Ilium. Lysandra also accompanies them, disguised as a pet bird. While on board, Aelin and Adian discuss the Battle of Theralis, which Adian fought in when he was just 14. They also contemplate the trauma that Aelin endured in Endovier, and they bond over their shared painful past. I can't believe you read this and still was just like, about Adian.
I'm doing it again. I'm just, even hearing this, I'm like, ugh.
I just can't, my mind is boggled.
Here's what I will give him. Defending Terrasen by taking up the title, the Whore of, the Whore of Terrasen?
Something,
honorable.
Whore something, I don't remember.
Honorable. I respect him for that. This is why he was not my least favorite character by any means. But his storyline did not continue to progress for me. That was the peak of it. And then it was just like, okay, and now you have a dad. And you're going to be, that's it.
And like, now you have a dad. Oh, man. I just, like, this was such a sweet moment for me. And I just think it's so insane to me that was missed on you.
Huh. I am who I am.
Aelin hopes that they will arrive at Skull's Bay before Erewhon does, and she plans to move on from there to the Stone Marshes in Eoway. Back to one of my favorite parts of this book. Manon wakes up atop Abraxos in the Oakwald Forest.
Mm-hmm.
Her wounds from her grandmother's iron nails are jagged and painful, and she manages to sit up long enough to bind them before she falls unconscious again. When she wakes up the next time, Abraxos has brought her closer to a stream, because she desperately is needing water. She is interrupted by the arrival of a woman with bright blue eyes who introduces herself as the Bloodhound, a servant of Erewhon. The woman's form is an illusion. The Bloodhound is actually a winged monster. It pursues Manon and Abraxos. Manon runs on foot until Abraxos grabs her with his clawed hands and carries her away, flying evasively from the bloodhound before whacking it out of the sky with his tail. Manon then climbs back into the saddle and tells Abraxos to fly to the coast and find somewhere safe before losing consciousness again. My girl. This was hard because I
have something to say.
I was just about to say, I was battling between emotion and logic this whole time. I'm like, if the girl can't even bring herself to a stream, you're telling me that she was able to run, like, with her injuries. So, but then at the same time, I'm like, fight or flight. I mean, like, when you get adrenaline and it's like you're about to die, your body does some pretty incredible things. So I guess I can see that. But then I was also just like, I love her so much and everything she does is the best. So then I was making excuses for it.
Here's what I'm going to say about this. As out of luck as Manon was in, like, landing in this sticky forest with now telling her wyvern, like, go, and she's bleeding out, I dare say she was in better shape than when she sent Elite off by herself.
Oh my gosh.
And I will die on that hill.
Again. I just think it's strongly disagree.
How can you not? How can you not think of a lead when, like, you almost parallel it, at least in my mind, because Manon is now abandoned in a forest and she has to figure out, like, okay, I got to go find, I don't know where she's going. And I don't even think she knows, but she's got to move somewhere, you know? Similar to a lead. She has a goal, she's got to go, but she's going through the forest too. And so I'm paralleling these two and I'm like, they're both pretty at odds with the world because Manon is near death and Elite is just a girl. And like, I would actually put my money on Manon before I would put it on Elite, as much as I love Elite.
That's so true. Here, I think if Manon was 100% alone, I think it'd be different, but she had Abraxos.
Yeah,
so I think
but then Abraxos left, and that's where I was like,
yeah,
I'd
that's
still
true,
place my money on Manon.
I love Elite so much, but Manon just feels like she has street smarts and Elite doesn't because she's been locked in a tower her whole life.
And that's not Elite's fault.
It's not her fault.
Elite's doing the best she can.
And I love Elite.
I just can't believe that we were like, go on. You can do it. Go by yourself.
If you've listened to any of our other Tandem Fandom episodes, you know Elite is quite honestly, well, maybe you haven't, I don't know, but I'm saying it now. Elite is quite honestly, even at this point, one of my favorite characters in the book.
Mine too. Mm-hmm.
And I love her so much. No, Ellie has never convinced me so thoroughly on any of our podcasts of her stance on something, more so though than leaving Elite in the forest. I was firmly on the side of like, she's strong and independent, she can do this, she's fine, and then you really convinced me the otherwise.
Regardless of Elite's helplessness, she continues to be one of my favorites. I think because even in that helplessness, she still tries her best, and unlike Kale, she's able to get something out of it. She's able to do good with it. And she'll have help along the way, but like, she's very unproblematic and very determined. And I just appreciate her so much. I think she's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Could not agree more.
Okay.
Well, let's switching gears here though, back to Tower of Dawn. Irene arrives early and finds Kale in bed with Nesryn. And I know I put this together, but I also just want to clarify for you. They were just talking, right?
Yeah.
That's what. Okay.
Well,
I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything up.
According to Kale, according to Nesryn, but not according to what Irene saw.
Well, yes, I meant, but in reality.
Yeah, in
what
reality,
Irene saw is not reality.
But I'm pretty sure, like, Kale was, like, shirtless or something like that. And I'm like, okay, just talking. Like, the way Irene described what she saw was like, there's no way Sarah justifies this as they were not sleeping together.
100%.
Like, they were.
And I see all of the angles here because, one, as the reader, we were a part of the just talking conversation, so we know that it was nothing else. Yeah. But then, as Irene, absolutely, you couldn't convince me otherwise.
Yeah.
Because they were a couple when they got there. Mm-hmm. Like, so
they had a situationship.
Yes.
Now he's in bed with her. The evidence is damning.
Not a stretch to assume.
Yeah.
So anyways, Kale sees a book that Irene has taken from the library and it's covered in word marks. So he makes her hide it in his room for her safety. Irene asks what happened to the other Vogue kings as the illustration only showed three, but only talks about Erewhon. He tells her that the other two were defeated or either defeated or sent back. Irene points out that if they were only sent back, it's possible that they could come back again.
Mm-hmm.
She begins healing him and sees more dark memories, and then she shows him one of her memories with her mom. Chaol can now feel his feet as well as his toes. She tells Chaol about her mother and her life after she had died. She tells him about the time she spent in Inish trying to make money to come to the Torre and meeting Selena and all that, the experience she had with her. Irene tells Chaol she knows the king is the one who gave him the wound and that he was possessed because of the memories that she had seen while healing him. Back to Marboy Dorito. Dorian lingers with Rowan and the other cadre members in Skulls Bay while Rolf refuses to meet with them. To fill their days, Rowan and Dorian exercise their bodies and hone their magical abilities. Sometimes Fenrys and Gabriel join them, but whenever Rowan senses that Dorian's grief is becoming overwhelming, he sends them away. In the afternoons, Rowan and Dorian prowl Skulls Bay for gossip and intel. I love the
that would
weird
be my good job.
romance that was budding here between the two of them.
I do, and like I don't know. I felt like I loved it, but at the same time, I wanted more from them to be
I
like,
do too.
we're like together, we are forming our own cadre, like that kind of thing.
100%.
Like we are, and I don't think they ever got that far. Like this was pretty much the extent. And while I loved it, I just wanted more because I love their relationship.
Couldn't have said it better myself. After some time passes without any progress, Rowan mails a letter to Dorian containing war-related misinformation that he centers on Rolf. Rolf falls for the trap and summons both of them to a meeting in his office. And here's my favorite part of this chapter.
Yeah, mine too.
When they arrive at the tavern, Rolf unlocks the door to his office and sees none other than Selena Sartaq, a.k.a. Aelin Galathinius, sitting in his chair. I think I was like out loud, like reading this. But then we have to switch back to Tower of Dawn, and I'm like, oh, but we'll do it anyways. Sartaq invites Nesryn to the mountains with him to hunt for answers, and it says
wait, real quick. I remember this specifically. It just shot back into my brain. I did not listen to the tandem for like 2 more chapters because I had to know what was happening
Ellie.
with Aelin and Rolf, and this was the first time she and Rowan were like within the same vicinity again. I was losing my marbles, so I did not go back to Chaol for just a second. But go ahead.
Well, I did because I wanted to follow the rules because I felt like they were written for a reason and it would be a good, exciting thing to jump back into. But that's just me.
Rules are great unless they keep me from reading about Aelin and Rowan.
Well, Sartaq invited Nesryn to the mountains with him and says it's going to take about 3 weeks. I love this. Nesryn agrees and leaves a note for Chaol telling him that she holds him to no promises and she will hold to none of their own. Or none of her own.
I hear the humor behind your voice in that, but I actually like deeply, deeply loved this because I was like, I'm so happy she's like, bye, Chaol. Figure your life out, and I'm not holding myself to anything. We're done.
Because, no, truthfully, I'm so glad that there was going to be no weirdness potentially in the future, because clearly we can see, I mean, not that romance is necessarily sparking between either yet. We can see that there's nothing happening between Chaol and Nesryn. Like, they were kind of a thing, then they weren't, and they were friends, and then they thought about starting something again, but it was never even really written. It's not even
the
just
chemistry between them just wasn't there, and they both were not committing, which was like, it takes at least that.
Yeah, but like even beyond on like a more just like basic level, Sarah wasn't writing the romance between them. It was saying but not showing. Like they said they were together and like said they'd give it a shot, but then that was the extent of it. Nothing ever really happened again after that. Yeah. And so I was waiting just for something, and I'm just glad that there was a line drawn in the sand, regardless of where it was going anywhere, that they were done at this point. So nothing could be held against them should something happen.
I didn't really care for Nesryn at this point. Like, not that I didn't like her, but her character was like just kind of filler for me. But when she wrote this note and was like, I'm leaving, oh, Nesryn shot up on my list. I was like, I like her. She's got backbone.
You know what? I agree. I think Nesryn was just mid for me, and I didn't particularly care one way or the other, but there was nothing about her character that I was like super intrigued by up until this point. And I think if I remember correctly, around here is when it started to turn for me with her too. Yeah. But anyways, I just loved that. I loved that there was no way that, because I could totally see if this hadn't happened, if they didn't write. And again, I'm not spoiling anything. I'm just talking in assumptions, because if you're listening to this as you're reading it, this is just where my mind went. Should something happen with Nesryn and Sartaq, and honestly even Chaol and Irene, like, but specifically I'm thinking here, if something were to happen with Nesryn and Sartaq, 100%, absolutely without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, somehow Chaol would flip that on her.
Oh, yes.
At some point, had the line not been drawn.
Nesryn knew how to shut it down before it even started, and I respect her for that. I respect her. Yep.
So I respect her for that, and I also respect her for sparing me the frustration of reading his reaction to something.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, back to good news. We're back. We are immediately getting to find out how everyone reacted to Aelin showing up.
Yep.
Rolf is shocked by Selena/Aelin's presence, as he does not know about Aelin's true identity. I love that. I love that he was the only one in this scenario who didn't know. He still thought she was Selena, and he's like, why are you here? I'm expecting someone else.
This, again, is like my favorite. I don't know if this is really a trope, but this is my favorite type of storyline, where you have like an assuming underdog, and it turns out they're the most powerful one in the room. I love that bait and switch. I love it. Me too. Gets me every time.
Acting as Selena, Aelin confirms that Rolf no longer participates in enslavement, and now offers sanctuary to any former enslaved persons who come to Skulls Bay. She taunts Rolf and flirts with Rowan before Lysandra enters the room, shifted to resemble Aelin. Rolf is shocked by the two Aelins, and Lysandra then shifts back into her own form. Aelin asks Rowan, Dorian, Fenrys, and Gabriel to all affirm her identity to Rolf, which they do.
So I'm going to interject. Lysandra coming in as a double Aelin was weird to me.
I think it's just like a mind trick for honestly just like screwing with him at that point. I loved it.
I understand.
I loved everything about this.
The dramatics behind it. That's like it. Just like that's fun. But like storyline specifically, I felt like that could have played a little bit more into like something cooler other than like just
storyline wise, it was perfect because her character is all about the theatrics. And this absolutely played into it. But it needed,
if it was, okay, yes and no. I agree with you. But for this, hard to explain. For the storyline, I know I've said this a lot. Yes, her character is into theatrics, but that doesn't mean that the storyline wraps around, like, her personality.
I guess.
The storyline could have been Aelin was out there doing something else, like her work, and, like, messing with, or I don't know, winning Rolf's guys over, and then coming in and he's like, oh, who is that messing with them? I thought you were out there, but you're sitting in here. And then she comes in and it's like one of these big things. So just the fact that like she just came in and it was like, wait, there's two of you. And then she immediately shifts and is like, oh no, there's just one of you. And then it's like, and I'm Aelin. Kind of odd to me, but fun, I guess. And that's where I end with that.
I see your point. There could have been still theatric, but like executed.
But more.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would have been cool, but I still just liked this. I thought it was fun.
I did too.
Adrian and Lysandra set a trap for Rolf with the amulet of Orinth, aka the word key. Lysandra transforms herself into a random woman, posing as a sex worker in an alley, while Adrian leans close to her as if he's a potential customer. Aelin has sent them, hoping that Rolf will be drawn to the amulet, thereby proving that the maps on his hands can sense word keys and possibly also the lock. Adrian feels uncomfortable with their ruse, given the fact that both he and Lysandra have past experience with non-consensual sexual encounters. And I really felt for them in
I did too,
this.
yeah.
Sent by Aelin, Dorian arrives to check on them. Adrian is cold to him, and when Dorian leaves, Lysandra chides Adrian for his bitterness, reasoning that Dorian could not control the evil that his father and the Vogue demon inside him wrought upon the continent. Adrian tells her that Dorian reminds him of the trauma of losing his family, but he agrees to try and be friendlier. He also asks Lysandra to come with him when he finally meets his father, Gabriel. The barmaid from Rolf's tavern appears in the Dead End Alley, possibly sent by Rolf to look for the amulet. But she leaves, and Adrian and Lysandra wonder what she thought she was looking for. And that is where we end today.
Love it.
So I hope you enjoyed it. This was a fun little bit. I love this whole story, and it just keeps getting better.
I know.
So join us next week for our week 4 of Tandem Fandom. It's going to be Empire of Storms chapters 30 through 36 and Tower of Dawn chapters 25 through 35. So it will be a little more Tower of Dawn heavy, but fret not. It's getting good in that book as well.
It's getting good. I'm okay. Here it is on the internet. I didn't like Tower of Dawn. If you've seen my most recent reel about me rating the books, it was pretty low. But going over it again, I'm just like, this book was actually pretty good. I really do like it. I think it's moving up in my mind.
I think it's moving up because now we have come full circle and like no ending. So I think that makes us view things differently.
Probably.
But I think that's hard to judge a book by that because you have to judge it based on how you felt in the moment. And I still stand by me calling this Tower of Yawn. Because when I first read it, I was just so unimpressed.
Yeah.
But it's still better than other books I have read. It's just when you're comparing it to these other amazing stories that she's written, it wasn't not a favorite. But I understand I just really think it could have been a novella. I think it was taken a little too far. And I think a lot of it could have been condensed, and it would have been way more action-packed. It would have been quicker, and I would have enjoyed it more. But I
actually don't agree, and I think we need to save that conversation for the very end of the Tandem Fandom read.
Okay.
But I actually appreciate that it was a full book at this stage in my life now. I've matured. I'm growing.
All right. Well, there's that on that. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Stay tuned for our next Hot Goss episode on Monday. And if you haven't already, go ahead and follow us on socials at L.A.M.E Book Club Pod. Like our stuff, subscribe, leave a review on Apple Podcasts. And thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Peace out.
Bye.
Ugh, did not like that I said that, but I'm leaving that in.
Twice in a row.
Yeah.